have been on ToiletTok for years. Yes, that's toilet-focused videos on TikTok. For me, my John journey started when I witnessed an artistic evaluation of a sink at a bar in Brooklyn. To the untrained eye, it looked like a basic sink, but through the video, you realize everything that makes this sink special. They say it best.
Its fixtures are stately and bright, and they issue forth a robust water flow.
I was intrigued. I too overthink basic things that nobody cares about. It's how I got started making videos on the internet. Being overly critical to USPS stamps, part 3. Sinks are reviewed from 0 to 5 sinks. That sink received a 3, which does suggest that Sink Reviews is also plagued by the letterbox scoring system. But by commenting on a fixture that is so often overlooked, you're finally looking at it, noticing that it isn't just a water-spewing machine, that it is a sink with a form, and some of those forms work better than others. And sinks got me into the bathroom reviewing universe. I think a toilet review too early might have scared me away. So enter Abby, an influencer whose bio tells you everything you need to know. She has 41 videos titled Take a Shit With Me. Each one she takes you into the bathroom of a luxury retailer. All are paired with a comedic foot shuffle and a giggle.
Come take a shit with me at Tiffany's.
It's definitely aware that it's a joke, but the reviews are very specific. She is judging the toilet paper ply, the toilet brand, the soaps, the towels, the accessibility. She is rating the bathroom experience. These are places I probably wouldn't find myself, so it's nice to kind of get a peek at how the other half poops. But then there's the final account, the place this journey plopped me, where I realized this isn't about sinks and scented soaps. A common post for this account is a screen recording of a Google Maps location, set to a ludicrous song that you might be singing if you desperately were in need of a bathroom. In 2021, the TikTok account Got2GoNYC was created by Teddy Siegel, who, after drinking an iced coffee in Times Square, found herself in desperate need of a bathroom. She was turned away from many businesses until she asked at a McDonald's. She could only use the bathroom if she made a purchase, so after buying a water, she ran up the stairs to find the bathroom was wide open. She had a very close call and could have just walked right in. So she shared the location on TikTok, telling people where the bathroom was. And everyone was responding in the comments with their own experience and toilets they had found in the city. Pretty quickly, it grew beyond a TikTok account, and she created a publicly viewable map through Google Maps where people could add locations and notes and codes for fellow folks on their potty pilgrimage. She talked about how it started as a bit of a joke, but once she started seeing comments of people who needed this resource, she realized it wasn't really that funny.
Why was a 27-year-old New York City resident forced to bleed through her pants in a CVS while holding a box of tampons she bought, begging to use the restroom? Why does a 22-year-old camp counselor at Prospect Park have no choice but to change children in a bathroom where human feces was smeared on the walls and floors for days on end, despite having reported it to the Parks Department? Why did a tourist from London have to witness her elderly friend wet herself because they couldn't find an accessible restroom in time?
Now, you may notice that video shows her in a very stately location. She was there for the passing of a bill, Intro 258, which mandated that the New York City Department of Transportation and the Department of Parks and Recreation create a report identifying locations in each zip code where one public bathroom could be installed. Keep in mind, that is just a report, which will hopefully bring us to the step where bathrooms are installed. But that isn't a guarantee. This is not the first time a bathroom solution has been proposed. It's just rare to have anything come to pass. Like in 1992, there were public bathrooms placed on New York City streets. These were self-cleaning, coin-operated toilets, but they were on their way out. A reporter spoke to a storefront owner who was waiting in line for a toilet. Everybody needs it. I need it right now. They have to put more instead of taking them away. That man might have been giving that toilet its final flush, bidding it adieu. After their 4-month test, they were being shipped back to France. If it was leaving, it must not have been a success. But actually, it was used 40,000 times in those 4 months, and people really liked them. According to this article, the fears of obscene behavior were unfounded, and the bathroom attendant had gotten cards saying what a great relief it was. Now, when this article was published, they optimistically thought those toilets would be coming back and that they'd be bringing a bunch of their toilet friends. The company was asking for a 20-year contract. The bathrooms came at no cost to the city and would instead be paid for and maintained by ads on the exterior along with coin payment. But those toilets never came back. and nothing really took their place. They had gotten a temporary waiver for a state law from 1975 that prohibited paid toilets in the state of New York. Then the fight began. Many weren't big enough for wheelchair access, and the accessible options would take up more room on the sidewalk. Residents complained that it would be too many ads on the street, and that it would clutter sidewalks, that it would bring crime. After 2 years, Got2Go stopped trying to get their toilets in New York. It seemed impossible. But you never know who's going to use your toilet and then tell all their friends about it. The Democratic National Convention in 1992 was in New York City, right when those toilets were having their trial period. The mayor of San Francisco had visited during his trip, and it turns out being able to use a clean bathroom when you need to is 5 out of 5 sinks. His staff then developed a plan to implement those same toilets in San Francisco. It initially had resistance from the Board of Supervisors and was voted against. But people were mad. A local paper published the names of the supervisors who voted against and included their office numbers. It was suggested they should be flushed from office. The board reversed their decision. Now, a lot has changed since the 90s, but there are 25 kiosk bathrooms in San Francisco that are self-cleaning and accessible. And based on this maintenance vehicle, they are still operated at least somewhat by Got2Go. And similar to the programs offered to New York City, those toilets aren't paid for by the city. They are funded by the advertisements on the exterior. Got2Go isn't really a toilet company. They sell themselves as street furniture, but it's mostly a global outdoor advertising company, selling the ads on billboards and bus shelters and toilets. 25 kiosk bathrooms might not seem like that much in the grand scheme, but in a lot of ways, that decision to add toilets makes San Francisco in the top 10 of public restrooms per 100,000 residents. And New York City ranks 93rd for public restrooms per capita. But it turns out New York City and the entire United States wasn't always so piss poor when it came to public piss places. In 1940, New York City subways had a weekly inspection of 1,676 toilets. A survey before the pandemic found there were 78 subway station bathrooms. Those bathrooms were closed for years during the pandemic, and now in 2024, the number that reopened is 58. So presumably the population has gone down since 1940. It's over 1 million more people. While researching this topic, it became so clear how much of an attention issue bathrooms are. They get built and fixed up when enough people make a huff, and then are forgotten about for decades, just for people to ask how it got so bad again. Around 1900, there was a push for public toilets that had a very refined title, comfort stations. In cities, these bathrooms could often be found under public parks. These were part of wider initiatives, often led by women, to make cities clean and healthy. Before these public restrooms, you might use the bathroom at a private business, a shop, or a saloon. And as the temperance movement was growing and the country was working its way toward prohibition, people were asking, should you have to buy a beer to go pee? Maybe that's not helping people's sobriety. And this wasn't just an effort to keep people out of saloons in big cities like New York. Small towns opened restrooms, which aimed to serve farm families in town for a day of shopping. Located in business blocks or homes near the business district, the small town restrooms were like domestic spaces with small toilet rooms, large parlors, dining rooms, and kitchens. This is all from Peter Baldwin's journal article on public privacy, restrooms in American cities, 1869 to 1932. In many ways, these comfort stations were a success. They could be found all over large cities. Manhattan had 22 in 1932, but they were heavily used and getting older. The Women's City Club of New York wrote about them in an assessment. The community has failed in its manifest duty to make provisions for the normal needs of its ever-increasing population. Although the United States prides itself on its reputation of being foremost in its attention to all matters related to plumbing and toilets, yet in this question of municipal comfort stations, New York has lagged far behind the practice of European capitals. The toilets they'd helped build 30 years prior were in need of maintenance and were heavily used. 80,000 people a day in 1927. But even then, they already knew it probably wasn't going to get better. The report called for a system of modern new facilities, but acknowledged that it would be challenging to get money in a time of municipal retrenchment. That club was kind of seeing the future. They noticed that money wasn't pouring into these projects anymore. So is there another way to fund toilets when your local government doesn't want to? Maybe you could pay a coin or $1 to use a bathroom. It's very common in some European cities. But I mentioned earlier a law prohibiting pay toilets going on the books in 1975 for New York State. And this wasn't just New York law. A dozen states have something similar: Alaska, California, Michigan, Tennessee, Wyoming. And we have a group of meddling kids to blame for that. Two brothers were on a family road trip and had encountered a paid toilet at a Howard Johnson's in Pennsylvania. They were outraged that a human right could be so transactional. When they got back to their high school in Dayton, Ohio in 1968, they created a group with their friends. 4 high schoolers, Michael, Ira, Steve, and Natalie, created the Committee to End Paid Toilets in America. Around this time, there were thousands of restrooms around the country that required a dime or more to access. And from there, they ran an incredibly successful campaign. They had songs, they had poems, they had a paper they called the Free Toilet Paper on how to advocate in your state. They received membership dues from 1,800 people across the country. And the story kept getting media coverage until state after state was banning paid toilets. They believed no one should have to pay to use a bathroom. Many of their examples were places like airports or restaurants. 34 bathrooms at an airport in Ohio generated $11,400 in 1971. And gender inequality was at play. Urinals had no cost associated, but stalls did, meaning women had to pay for these bathrooms more frequently. And it can feel really easy to want to blame these former kids for making bathrooms harder to come by. There have been times in my life where I would have happily paid $1 to use a clean bathroom. But their initial frustration was a diner making you pay for the bathroom after you just paid for a meal. And they probably aren't the only reason there are less bathrooms. Parallel to this, there were legal battles occurring that would also change the outcome for public bathrooms. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 meant states and cities could no longer allow for segregation of public amenities, including toilets, water fountains, and public pools. Jackson, Mississippi, instead of integrating their public pools, had closed their public swimming pools and leased the last one to the YMCA, which still had discriminatory policies. Hazel Palmer, a Black Jackson resident, filed a suit against the city. In 1971, it was brought to the Supreme Court. They sided with the city, stating, "A city may choose not to operate desegregated facilities if its decision appears neutral on its face." They argued because all residents of a city were affected by the closure, there's no disparate treatment. Whether there was intent to discriminate is not material if there was no impact felt. This happened across the country with pools, but it also set a precedent for all public facilities that instead of integrating, you could just remove it altogether. So right around the same time, you have 2 things that are removing bathrooms. Those high schoolers didn't know the Supreme Court decision that would come 3 years later. But suddenly you have public bathrooms, which might be removed from your city or state, and you can't even pay for a private kiosk bathroom, since those have been removed. Now, I previously might have made it sound like San Francisco had figured out their bathroom problem in the 90s. But according to this Frisco article, it doesn't feel like that for them. In all, SF seems to maintain between 20 and 26 restrooms per 100,000 residents. While that's great compared with the US average of 8 per 100,000, it's less than half of the 50 that the United Nations recommends. The spokesman for a member of the state assembly said, "San Francisco has restrooms that are not open. We have ones that are open for only partial amounts of time. We've built them knowing we need the capacity, and then we just keep them closed. Now we're more known for shit in our streets than for trolleys or the bridge." The wider argument in this article is that there is no toilet bearer. No one department has authority on all bathrooms. Different groups manage certain bathrooms, and there is no consistent rules on how they must be managed, or what condition is appropriate. It's also hard to find a city hall standard bearer for restroom reform. As McCreary puts it, the risk-reward ratio for being known as the toilet person is not attractive for most politicians. But possibly being a toilet person needs a rebrand. A couple months ago, I watched the movie Perfect Days. It's set in Tokyo, and our protagonist, Hirayama, played by Yakusho Koji, is a cleaner for the Tokyo toilet. He is someone who takes his job and role very seriously, and if you're into cleaning ASMR, you're gonna love this film. But what the movie really shows is what maintenance looks like. The Tokyo toilet is a real company, and the beautiful, creative bathrooms you see were part of a project to replace inadequate toilets in Shibuya in 2018. They're architecturally interesting, they're accessible, and they tie in with their surroundings, often in parks. And when you look at their website, they are clearly proud of how these toilets look, but they're also proud of how they are maintained, which has its own dedicated page describing the exact process for cleaning. Dry cleanings occur 3 times a day, wet cleanings and inspections once a month, and a deep cleaning once a year that includes the hard-to-reach places like lights, vents, and roofs. The movie was born out of a desire to show these restrooms off. They invited director Wim Wenders to observe the bathrooms, and it became a feature-length film and was nominated for an Oscar. But this movie isn't just about how pretty restrooms can be. It's about how those bathrooms tie Hirayama into a community. all the people he sees regularly, the people he helps when they need a place to go, the park where he eats lunch, or the place he goes for dinner. He has a routine, and that routine is what makes a perfect day. But at one point, his coworker quits, and he is suddenly doing the work of 2 people. He's forced to work through his meals. He doesn't have time to wave or talk or notice his surroundings. And this job that he previously took peace in is taking everything out of him. He has to half-ass his work to get it done, and he can't take the pride he once had in it. Keeping something in good condition through repair and care can be a full-time job. It can be a lot of full-time jobs. And I think the US has a pretty flawed relationship with maintenance by not valuing how much money and work and time it takes to keep something nice. By not respecting that role and the effort it takes to do it, you're pretending it doesn't need to be done. We keep chasing the idea of an object that doesn't require any cleaning or maintenance. Because maintenance is annoying. It's probably your least favorite task at home. Doing dishes, laundry, swapping a light bulb, cleaning your vacuum, cleaning a drain. But if you don't do these things, you suddenly might not have a working sink. In the public world, not investing in maintenance breaks things. It makes you play the blame game. It's not the fault of the institution for not cleaning or repairing something. It's the fault of the person you don't like who used it. The complaint about public bathrooms is usually their condition, and a disgusting bathroom is going to stay in your memory a lot longer than a clean one. But when you keep reducing the number of quality public bathrooms, the number of people it serves will go up, and the quality of that bathroom will go down. It's so easy to condemn the people using one of the few facilities, then asking why there are so few, why they aren't maintained in the first place. But as you've seen, we've invested in this before, and if we make a big enough stink, we might invest in it again, because everybody has to go, including me, right now. Thank you for watching this video. I have another video you might like about cheap food and automats. I do have a Patreon where you can watch me review the public bathrooms in The Sims 4. They are doing much better on toilets per capita, but you wouldn't know it based on how many Sims just let it out. I also have a free tier on Patreon, which is pretty much just a newsletter. A week ago, I sent out my favorite video games, which are not The Sims and are very 2D. I wish you all a life full of bathrooms. Bye.